page 178, Sea Chantey. On page 176, they introduce a new type of note. If you've been struggling with rhythms so far, I highly encourage you to go back and start this book again and focus on getting the rhythms correct. It's really important that you learn to be able to count the rhythms out, because they're just going to get more involved and more complicated. And 16th notes do that. Let's take a look at a 16th note. They show it at the top. It looks like an 8th note, but it has a second flag. Or if there are groups of them together, there's 2 beams instead of 1. Those are 16th notes. So you have a whole note. Divide that in half, you get a half note. Divide that in half, you get a quarter note. Divide that in half, you get an 8th note. And divide that in half, you get a 16th note. And you can keep dividing. 32nd, 64th, 128th. Not for piano necessarily, but some drummers might use 128th notes. The point is, there's 4 16th notes to a quarter note. Now, if a quarter note gets a count, then a 16th note is going to get 1/4 of a count. Quarter note doesn't always get a count, because like in 3/8 or 6/8 time, an 8th note gets a count. Well, if an 8th note gets a count, then a 16th note gets half a count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and. See, it depends on the time signature. They give you some examples there on page 176. There's different ways of counting 16th notes. Different people teach different ways. I leave that between you and your teacher. I simply put an in between the 1 and. 1 E and duh. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Hey, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 type thing. That's how I count them. And again, you're only counting it to figure it out. Once you have the rhythm, you don't count it anymore, you feel it. And it gives different examples, but I like to use the music, so let's go take a look at Sea Chantey. 4/4 time, there's 1 flat, it's either an F major or D minor. Now if you look at the end, it ends here. It's a D minor chord, I'm guessing this is in D minor. And the first 2 lines, you're kind of going back and forth. The hands are kind of playing one hand then the other. But then when you get to the 3rd line, measure 5, now we get 16th notes in the left hand. Then on page 179, you get 16th notes starting at measure 9 in the right hand. That's where I want to start. Let's start right up there on measure 9 in the right hand. 1 E and a 2 E and a. You're here. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. They just say 3 and 4 and that's fine. I just want you to understand that that pulse, boom, 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 keeps going. And the next measure, come down 1. It's just 2 16ths. And that's 16th notes. That's really all it is for 16th notes. So carrying on here in the right hand, that's what you're doing. Measure 11. Now you got to come up. It's like a D minor scale, but be natural. And then cross over. Let's go down to the bottom. Measure 15 you have here, and then you're coming up to here. And then those last 3 8th notes. 3 and. You had to come up. And then 2 1 3. You've already had this. And then just extend out to the octave, and it's 2 3 5. Here, because that's the chord. So you don't need to move again. Just stay there. Could move if you wanted to, I suppose, but I don't recommend it. In the left hand, you're starting out here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. Now thumb on there. Crossover and. And then the right hand gets some notes, and then the left hand comes down 1 key. And measure 5. 1 and 2 and. See, a lot of times I just go 1 and 2 and I know there's 2 16th notes in there, and I can just feel them. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and hands together. At the beginning, it's so they're just taking turns playing eighth beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and the right hand had to come down. The right hand is moving around a little bit, but you got rest, you got time. You're saying, I don't see any rest. Well, the point is, when the left hand is playing and there's nothing in the top staff, it's the same as a rest. So, I mean, they could have put rests in there, but what they've done is they've chosen to go ahead and just have one line of music split across 2 steps. That made no sense. But the point is, you don't necessarily have to account for 4 beats in both steps. It's 2 steps together. In this case, it's acting like one staff. And they do that sometimes. It makes it cleaner and easier to read. Basically, both hands are playing both staves as necessary, whatever's necessary. So it's a here. And the way it's working out, the way they've arranged it, is the left hand plays the bottom staff and the right hand plays the top staff. But in theory, both hands are playing both staves. So, just measure 3, 1 and 2 and measure 5, 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2. Get the idea? Measure 9. Now the right hand gets at 1. Now how fast you go is up to you. The 16th notes have to be even and controlled. I may be going a bit fast. Well, it makes for a shorter video. I like this fingering in the right hand. From measure 10 going into measure 11. No, let's fix that. So for the last 8th notes there, measure 10, the last 2 beats. Instead of that, I'm going to suggest you do a 2-4. That way your little finger's ready. There. So that measure is the here. I'll measure 10. Watch out, measure 11, you're going to come up. See, I had to thumb under. Just go that slow, I go fast. Thumb, there, and then. So a little faster than is. Then it's 1 E. The right hand's moving around here, watch out. Fortunately, the left hand's not going too far. It's only going up or down 1, so that's not so bad. You can focus more on the right hand. So it's just the chords and the inversions here. That's all it is. However, on beat 3 in the left hand, that's a quarter note. Hold that down. And then lift it up on beat 4. Again, measure 13. Now, the last measure in the left hand. You can do that. I don't recommend it. You can do it. Sometimes we do. But you don't have to. Just come down. Thumb. Thumb on that if you can. You need to be able to do this eventually, so it's a good practice. And that way all you got to do is just reach down. So the last measure is here. Here. Then once you have the rhythm figured out and the fingering and the notes and all that, then we can add in the articulation, the staccatos and the accents and things like that. They're going to be nice short staccatos. Hinge at the wrist on this. The left hand gets an accent on these. Just give a little extra. Just the left hand, not the right. Accent. And those eighth notes there in measures 3 and 4, those connect those. So it needs to sound like one hand played it all. Now we go on. Now it's staccato. It's an accent on the first one. Connect, accent. Accent. Connect all that. On measure 9, it's a staccato on the left hand, and you can pretty much connect the right hand when it does this. You have an accent on the third beat in the right hand, so it's on measure 13, the first beat, those are not staccato. So, and then staccato, and then no staccato. So it's only on beat 2 it looks like you get staccatos. And it's an accent on the last note, and fermata, so just hang on to a little longer. I don't know that you really need an accent when it's fortissimo, but they did, so just play it loud. Claps the wrist, cushion the wrist. Don't play with a stiff wrist. Let the wrist collapse a little bit on those. Then we can add the dynamics. Moderately loud is going to be both hands here. That makes the accent loud for that one note. You stay that way more or less. You can get a little louder and softer, because in measure 5 they're telling you moderately loud again. Well, you're already moderately loud, so that tells me that you were not moderately loud through the whole thing. It's like on measure 4, come down a little bit. Those notes could be moderately loud, which means you came down to moderately soft. And then now you're moderately loud, but the accent makes that note loud. Just that one, not the right hand. Now you're moderately soft. Now moderately loud. See that? An accent makes it loud though, just for that note. The right hand is still just moderately loud. It's moderately soft. And the crescendo there, you're going from moderately soft to moderately loud. There's not much difference. So you're just going up a little bit. Save most of your crescendo for measure 8. Moderately loud with an accent makes it loud. Now measure 9, you're soft, and that's the melody of the right hand. The left hand needs to be very soft. And that accented note will make that moderately soft. You just come up a little bit for the accent. And in measure 11, you go up to moderately loud. Measure 13, you're loud. Well, the last 2 notes on measure 12 were loud because of the accents. Stay there. This is both hands. And then at the end, there's a molto ritardando in the next last measure. So you're coming down and you're crescendoing up to very loud. Something like that. Speed-wise, it's with energy. It depends on how much wine I've had to drink or so forth, or coffee or whatever. But have fun with it, but it needs to be accurate. So the 16th notes need to be even and controlled. So don't drink too much wine here. It just says. They've added pedal. Well, I just demonstrated you don't need pedal on this piece. It works just fine. The pedal covers up the staccatos and all that, and it's going to blur it. But they've added pedal, so let's see what that sounds like. Don't pedal anywhere they didn't tell you to. On measure 13, use the overlapping pedal here, the legato pedal. Push the notes down first and then the pedal. Change the pedal after you play the note. And at the end, the last measure, lift the pedal up right after you play that first note. So, right there. And then at the end, you can push it down with the notes and lift it up with the hands. I prefer it without pedal myself because you can't get that effect with pedal. It just blurs it all up. It messes it up. However, if you want to use pedal, go ahead. The pedaling is only a suggestion. You don't have to do it that way. I certainly wouldn't pedal anything else, but I would prefer it without pedal. I think for the play with me, I'm going to leave the pedal out because you can hear the notes better and the staccatos and all, so we'll do that. I like to play it with you very, very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. Not going to do the dynamics, not going to do the pedaling, but we'll try and do everything else. I'll give us 4 counts, 4 quarter note counts. 1 and 2 and ready and go, and 1 and 2 and 3.